Welcome back to Around the Coin. Today, my guest on the show is Giorgi Khazaradze. He is the CEO and co-founder of Aurox. He is known as G, so I'm calling him G in the conversation. Aurox has built a wallet. They've raised $5 million. The company plans to go public. So we talked about his tactical plans for going public, whether it be through a SPAC, a direct listing. He wants to become their first crypto company, not the first, one of the few early stage crypto companies to go public. This can open up new pathways for investment into the company and help grow the business, but also serve as a pathway for other crypto projects who are looking for access to public investors on the NASDAQ, the Dow, the public markets. So I'm fascinated to see how this goes. We cover other topics involving where the company has come from, where they're going, and I hope you enjoy. Here is G, the co-founder of Aurox. All right, G, I'm excited to chat with you, man. You run a pretty cool company called Aurox. I've seen it and heard it, listened to it, read it, described as a terminal wallet for crypto trading trends. But in your own words, how do you describe what Aurox is trying to accomplish in the world?
Yeah, we're essentially trying, and it's good to be here. Thanks for having us. We're essentially trying to create an ecosystem of products that makes investing and trading easy. Not just trading, but to allow users to take part in decentralized finance and generate yields and interest rates that are not available anywhere else. We think DeFi is the next stage of cryptocurrency, and we're heavily involved in that phase of crypto.
So traction so far, just in terms of things accomplished, externally, it seems like you've raised $5 million, roughly 10 people in the team, somewhere in that range. Product-wise, or however you measure meaningful metrics of traction, revenue, users, transaction volume, how do you think of like what's internally? What are the OKRs or KPIs that you think about?
Retention. I think because we're up until this point, I mean, even now we haven't really done a lot of marketing. In crypto, I mean, most of other companies' budgets, it's like 90% marketing and 10% development, but we spent most of our time developing and getting the products ready and then marketing, because the retention is really what matters. If you can't retain the audience, you can spend hundreds of millions of dollars and you're just constantly churning users. So our retention has been very good, even though we have a lot of things to fix and adjust and learn from our user base. We retain about 50% of the signups. About, I want to say actually 40 to 50%. It's kind of ranges depending on the month, but we retain about 50% of the signups within the first month, and then it slowly does drop off. But we do retain a significant amount of the initial signups with organic traffic. So once we get into the next phases of development over the next 6 months, we'll be ramping up our marketing and taking advantage of our high retention rates and growing pretty quickly.
And I like it. And so give me a rough ballpark, or I don't know if you're transparent with traction, that sort of thing, but how many users have used it or that sort of thing?
We're sitting at, I think it's around like 70,000 right now. I'd have to double check, but that's all through. I mean, we've spent, like I said, barely any money. Most of it has been word of mouth. Even right now, we have zero advertising out there because we're focusing on the wallet that's coming up and everything else. And we're still signing up like 50 to 100 people a day, just organically.
How do people find it?
I don't know. To be honest, we do have press out there. We have some. We do shows and things like that, but it's mostly just been organic. I mean, we do some brand marketing from time to time. I think it's just people referring one another. Just through word of mouth. And I think that's the good part about crypto too, is if something is good, and you get that initial chatter, it starts spreading into these communities. So you don't even have to do a lot of external marketing. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on paid media because people themselves are talking about it.
Yeah, people generally have a aggressively curious disposition that they're, people who are in crypto. I mean, it's of course different for different people, but there's a huge cohort, unlike any other industry, that seems to be driving adoption forward. And that has to be motivated. Sure, there's definitely some functionality desire out there, but it's really like price speculation, trying to buy into early projects, which is super cool, right? It drives adoption. Yep. Plus, you guys also have a sweet logo with this, with the horns of the bull, the longhorn. So, what are the? What were you gonna say?
No, it's like it ties directly into like that was we actually went through so many redesigns in the past of our website, and that new one, this new website came out like 2 or 3 months ago, and been loved with the branding that the team did. It's incredible.
Yeah, I like it. So run me through the products today and maybe something in the pipeline. What's working? You mentioned the wallet's coming soon. What's currently like the bread and butter of what you guys have built?
Yeah, so the all-in-one terminal that has the 60 exchanges, hundreds of thousands of pairs that users can track, all the proprietary tools, analytics solutions, that is live, functional. People are using it on a daily basis. It's free. For the most part, it's free. There's some items that you need our token to access, but we've kept as much of it as free as possible. So that's live. It's actually going through a huge UI and UX redesign. This is one of the reasons that we're actually holding off on marketing as well. We hired Clay Global. Shout out to them. They're an incredible company. They did Coinbase mobile application and a bunch of Fortune 500 companies, UI, UX. They're doing a great job. Once they're done with the redesign, we'll implement it and then promote the platform, even the terminal, heavily. In the meanwhile, we moved our development team to work on the wallet, the Chrome extension wallet, or actually browser extension wallet, and then the mobile application that goes along with that. Essentially, it allows users to trade tens of thousands of pairs on decentralized exchanges like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, 1inch. But what we did that was unique to our platform, to our wallet, is try to mimic the look and feel of something that the user is already used to, which is really centralized exchanges. They're used to Coinbase, they're used to Binance, they're used to these centralized exchanges, but they're not used to Uniswap and decentralized exchanges. So we took the look and feel of the centralized exchange on the front end and then overlaid it on the back end of the smart contracts and improved offloaded the complexities to our back end. So the user thinks that they're trading on like Coinbase, but in reality they're trading on a decentralized exchange. So that affords them a lot more options, significantly more tokens, new tokens that are launching on a daily basis. They can stake, liquidity mine, everything that is great about DeFi within the palm of their hand.
And is that live today, or is that what you're anticipating the redesign and launch with the wallet?
No, so the wallet and the mobile application will be coming out here shortly, probably within the month or two. The browser extension will come out within probably by end of next month is where we're shooting for. Maybe a delay here and there, but end of next month is where we're shooting for. Mobile application will come out within maybe 30 or 60 days after that. And then by end of the summer, beginning of fall is when the terminal will have its new, fresh redesign. So we'll have 3 products to really promote and hammer by the end of this year and get a lot of traction going.
And what do most people use the terminal for today? When people, when you talk about attrition, people are going in there, they're getting value, they're coming back. Is it mainly for the visual graph to understand how different currency pairs are trending and be able to draw more advanced trading insights from those trends?
Yeah. So they're using it for essentially monitoring the entire market. Some people are using it for arbitrage. Some people are using it to strictly trade one token. But using the indicators and the analytics solutions that we provide to get a better idea. Like the average session on our page, and this is actually on the low end because Brave is stripping out our tracking pixels, and most of crypto is using Brave, but it's about 2 to 3 hours a day. So people are spending a lot of time on the platform actively using it. And so they're day trading, they're going in and out of trades. Even when the market is like this, as long as there's volatility, people are just on the platform finding those good opportunities to get in, get out of the market.
Quick aside on Brave. I interviewed the CTO, founder of Brave, and I personally use it and love it. And I bought in early. Not to say the price of the BAT token has done all that much, but it's an awesome project. You mentioned they're stripping out the pixel, the tracking pixel. They're generally known for having, a strong, heavy hand against embedded advertisement and tracking. Is that something that they changed recently, where they were allowing tracking pixels and now they don't?
No, they're so aggressive in stripping out tracking pixels. It's actually making like on one hand, I do understand it. On the other hand, I just want to know how many people are on our platform.
Yeah.
I just want to know a very simple stat. So they're a little difficult to work with. We essentially have to offload some of our tracking, and we're working on that actually over the course of the next few weeks to offload the tracking so I can understand how many people are actively using the platform. Because if I don't understand that simple stat, then we don't know, how are we going to scale our servers and how what our pain points are going to be in the future when we do scale marketing. But yeah, no, Brave is doing an incredible job stripping out literally anything you throw at
it. do you see, you said most people in crypto using Brave. That makes sense to me, but I wonder how they're doing. I don't know if you've heard any anecdotal stories about the project's growth. I think of it as like a early technology that has to overcome Chrome. I mean, Chrome is the biggest competitor in the space. And it just seems like with the embedded crypto in it, it's I'm like, how does this not win? How does this not beat out Chrome in the long run?
No, I mean, it really is at this point. It's like, I would imagine because it has the same user agent as Chrome. So if we just take the Chrome segment, I would imagine at least 50% of those are using Brave. Because we even had to put up this was early on. It was maybe 6 or 7 months ago. We implemented this popover saying, if you want to help us make the platform better, disable the Brave ad blocker so we can understand how people are using the platform. And it made a huge difference. It was we were looking at, let's say, 100 users, and all of a sudden there's 300 users on the platform.
Interesting.
So it made a pretty big difference.
And how come you can't see the number of users and what they're doing when they're logged in? Wouldn't you have that session data?
No, I mean, you need to figure out, let's say, so we do have the sessions when the session is open, but sessions can expire even if they're still on the platform because it's one screen. So we have to essentially track it on the back end and track every kind of click on the platform to figure out maybe, this new product that we released doesn't work. But if we're using Google Analytics to track that button click to see if it's in the right place, if it does the right thing, it strips that automatically. Whereas with backend tracking, we'll be able to see, that user did click on that button. It just Google Analytics just makes life easier because it's literally just one little code. Whereas with backend, you have to really restructure the entire thing and set up a pretty significant solution for it.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be better products that meet that new demand, because the analytics is very much, I remember when they first came out, it was pretty ugly, the user experience. That's why Mixpanel was kind of the biggest competitor at the time for analytics. But anyways, down the analytics rabbit hole, I'm curious to learn more about you, man. So did you, prior to this, what were you up to, and how did you become interested in this specific problem?
So this is actually, I've worked with my partners for a long time now. I think it's been over a decade. We met in high school on an online marketing forum. We are all the same age. Turns out it just completely randomly. We're all within a few months to a year from one another. And I ended up, my parents are immigrants. They immigrated here with absolutely nothing to our name.
From Georgia.
From Georgia, yeah.
Yeah.
It was going through like this huge revolutionary phase there. Like I think within 2 years after we left, the old president was forced to step down. It wasn't like an aggressive revolution, but they essentially like, you step down or we're gonna kick you out. So
was that in what time period is that? The 60s, 70s?
No, that was in 2000. I want to say it was 2002. I should know this being from there, but so we immigrated when it was 2000, or sorry, 2000. I think we immigrated exactly on 2000, and then the revolution happened in like 2001 or 2002. So pretty shortly after that.
And did many people also leave during that time that could leave, or?
Many people are still leaving the country. I mean, it's still now. It actually, after that happened, the new president that came in completely changed the country and made it more up to standards with Europe. Like he created and he essentially created this entire city that mimics like Miami, because he liked Miami so much. He actually studied over here. I think he went to Harvard or something. And so he liked Miami so much. There was a beach city that was kind of up and coming, but it just wasn't there yet. And he like just funneled so much money into it. It became like one of the top destinations of travel within that region. With Turkey, Russia, and like all these different Ukraine, all these different regions there. But then I don't know the full story. I don't pay attention to this to this much, but this guy came in. He's the only Georgian billionaire in the entire world, just one, and he made his money in Russia in oil or something along those lines. And he came in and started promising people, free houses, and went into like the villages where they have $200-$300 to their name. Went in there and fixed their roads and gave them food and all this stuff. And he ended up winning, even though he had essentially ties to Russia. And sure enough, that was not the right call. Essentially, now Georgia has become this somewhat of a Russian puppet nation. It's still not as bad as some of the other regions near Russia, but it's still kind of more on Putin's there. At least the government officials are more on Putin's side. They act like they're not, but they have ties to Russia essentially now.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and all that's unfolding right now too. So very relevant stories. So when you got to, where did you guys land in the U.S.? Straight in Dallas? Yep. And what was, so you grew up effectively from 2002 to the last 20 years here. So how old were you when you moved to the U.S.?
I was 8. So I think I turned 9 here. So about exactly 20 years. Actually, it's only 20 years exactly this summer.
Huh. And so you must remember a decent amount prior to coming, right? You have some memories at least prior to, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. I still speak the language and everything, so I still remember it being there. It's just I've gotten more Americanized. It used to be, I had a heavy accent here for the first 10 years, and now when I go back and visit, they're like, "You have an American accent," so I completely switched.
Yeah, makes sense. And so, what were you pursuing? I mean, you were prior to this. What were you up to?
Yeah. So we got started in high school. Me and my partners found each other on an online marketing forum. And we were all just tired of, we just didn't really want to go through that, 9-to-5 job. Because it was, you're getting into high school. People are saying, what are you going to go to school for? What are you going to want to do with your life? And I was like, I don't want to work 9-to-5. So we ended up going on this online marketing forum, randomly meeting each other and starting affiliate marketing. So we would buy ads for leads and things like that. Then we went into just straight up media buying, where we advertised heavily on Facebook. From there, we started e-commerce companies where we bought and sold goods online. So we would import or manufacture products, usually in China, imported them into the United States, and then sold them through e-commerce. And then we also got into software as a service company. Myself and my other partner owned an advertising analytics company for specifically Facebook. He still owns, I mean, he doesn't manage it that much anymore, but he still is technically an owner of another company that does software advertising analytics. So what we essentially did was just, take our few $100s a day or a month, actually, maybe even a year, that we were making initially, invested into the new project. And then we were, generating maybe a few $1,000s a month, and take that, invest into the next company. Then we were doing a few $1,000s a day, and then so on and so forth, and built these different companies until we came to crypto in 2016, 2017, where we were investing in companies that we thought would do well back then, and realized that there was a problem with data fragmentation, and just it was a very poor environment back then. I mean, if you want to go back to like Wayback Machine and look at what CoinMarketCap looked like, it was a whole different era. So anyways, we wanted an all-in-one trading terminal, something that would help us trade and make proper decisions. So we founded Aurox, and we're like, why invest in these companies when we can create our own product, our own company that could help other people make proper investments. Make our investments easier, as well as other people's investments easier. And that's where really Aurox was born. And even now, our goal is to simplify trading, simplify investing, and take advantage of the cryptocurrency market.
Yeah. And tell me about the specific idea to layer on this user experience, or this GUI to the DeFi world, because that to me feels like a big opportunity, in that there's incredible power in these DeFi networks and marketplaces, but they are intimidating to people, both from the conceptual level, that if you make a mistake, then you lose your money and no one could ever get it back for you. And then two, on the actual experiential level, that they're cumbersome and they're a different experience than what people are used to, for putting it lightly. Let me ask you this. Why do you think the DeFi marketplaces, exchanges, products that are out there are so poorly branded? If you would agree that they are poorly branded, why are they so poorly branded or designed? Is it that they just don't put the effort into design and user experience, or something else?
I think I think it's right now it's so complex in its nature. Dealing with gas fees and smart contracts and stuff. It's a pretty heavy lifting for a company to not only develop the smart contracts, but also develop the UI to simplify the entire process. I don't think the blockchain itself is there yet either. For example, we wanted to do like gasless trading. So a user essentially pays for the gas in the token that they want, that they're transacting in. Now there's companies that are using, it's called the IP, I think it's 1559, if I'm remembering correctly, which allows meta transactions. If you've probably seen it, or some of your listeners might have seen it, where you just connect your wallet to Uniswap, and then you can sign a transaction rather than approve a transaction. With the signing, you don't pay a fee initially. You just kind of sign it, and then the transaction hash, or the signed transaction, goes to a router, and then that router processes it. And that part simplified it a little bit, but unfortunately that only works for a specific subset of tokens. So for example, with our token that we have, it doesn't have that upgrade in it because it's not a requirement. And all the old tokens that have already been deployed, it was never available, so they don't have it. So the blockchain has the Ethereum Foundation. Ethereum have made the changes to allow paying for gas fees in the token that you're sending, but it's only a very small subset of tokens. we had to spend essentially about a month and a half or 2 months, actually more than that, a month and a half to 2 months for just development. And I spent months before that on research on how to fix this issue. So any token can be utilized to pay for gas. And that's such a simple like user experience thing. Like, yeah, of course you should be able to pay a fee with the token that you're transacting in. Like, duh. Like if you're a new user, I should be able to do that. But it took months of research and work to finally get that to work. And that's just one thing that we're improving on, and everything else as well, like the UI and all the things that we want to do is also pretty simple for the end user, but on the back end, it's a pretty significant challenge. And I don't think anyone in DeFi has really wanted to tackle this problem. They are slowly. They're realizing like the blockchain interoperability keyword has become like this huge buzzword recently for good reason.
Yeah. Why do you think that specific point of friction hasn't been smoothed over? I'm thinking if I have to tell me what the status quo is today. So if I'm going on any DeFi exchange, are people purchasing another token for the most part on these exchanges and using those as gas? Or is there now currently the option to use if I'm trading Bitcoin to Ethereum, can I use Bitcoin or Ethereum or just some transaction fee in the middle to make that trade? Or like, what is it like today?
No, it's still most platforms are still forcing you to use Ethereum because it's necessary. So if you're transacting on the Ethereum chain, you're using the Ethereum token. This contract, and we're actually going to release it hopefully this week or maybe next week, will be the first contract and code that will allow any token to be utilized to pay for gas during the swapping. So right now, it's really, if you don't have Ethereum, you're not transacting on the Ethereum chain. There are some places, like I said, that do allow through EIP 1559, but it's only certain tokens. It's like 10 or 20 tokens out of like thousands that allow that.
And so what's going on underneath the hood? So DeFi, if I'm picturing the exchange here, if I want to go from Bitcoin to Litecoin, I have $100 US equivalent worth of Bitcoin, and I want to move that into Litecoin. Somebody out there has, say, 1,000 or 100 of Litecoin. They want to move to Bitcoin. So the market maker makes that connection. The gas fees on top of that. Well, tell you in your words, because you're much more familiar about this. How do you explain what's going on with the current DeFi trades, and then how you built your backend?
Yeah. So right now you have, let's take Uniswap because it's the number one decentralized exchange. So you have liquidity pools that are sitting on the chains. In order to access these liquidity pools, you essentially have to pay ETH as the network fee. If I'm trying to swap from USDC to even ETH itself, I have to have ETH on top of that to pay for the fee. Only ETH allows me to transact on the chain itself, nothing else. We didn't fix this part. Like our platform still needs ETH to process the transaction. But what we did is during this swap, when you're converting USDC to ETH, we essentially take part of the USDC, swap it to ETH, and then pay back the miners. So you get, let's say the fee is $50 and you have $500 in USDC. You get $450 back, and then the miners get $50 in that fee. And all this happens in one transaction. Now USDC is a bad example for this because USDC does support the IP standard. But other tokens like ours does not. So you essentially have to swap that token into ETH at any time and then send it back to the miners. It's pretty complex. Like, when I first downloaded a wallet and I was trying to, a hardware wallet, I received USDC from someone and I was trying to send that to like a developer as a payment. This was a long time ago. And when I clicked send, it was like, you don't have enough ETH to make this transaction. I'm like, why do I need ETH to send USDC to someone? It doesn't make any sense. So I can imagine and I'm more technical. So I can imagine a lot of people that are being onboarded to DeFi have a significant amount of issues figuring out what is going on.
To me, it doesn't seem that this particular point of friction has been, maybe it has, and I just don't see it. But is this something that's talked about, is well aware? I generally hear people complain about the price of the transactions, that ETH2 specifically will supposedly reduce the cost of transactions. But the cumbersome experience, are people just not complaining about it because they feel like there's some shame in not being technical enough to handle it? Or do you see maybe people are complaining enough so publicly, or on Discord or Telegram or Twitter somewhere?
I think people are just dealing with it because you get used to it. So you get a warning message, you don't have ETH. Oh, okay. So I have to transfer ETH into this wallet. But what I've realized that when I talk to people, because I have like so many wallets in my MetaMask that have like different amount of tokens in each one. But all of a sudden, let's say I send USDC from one wallet to my developer, and now I'm completely out of ETH, but I have like 20,000 in USDC in that wallet. I have to transfer over ETH into that wallet just to get that funds out. And that specific use case, I've asked people, are you experiencing this? And it's like 100% across the board. They're like, yeah, I have like tokens stuck in this wallet and I can't even get it out because it costs more for me to just send ETH into it to get it out of the wallets. So it's definitely a problem. Just people are ignoring it because there is no it was, I think, Steve Jobs. I'm probably going to butcher this quote. People don't know what they want until you present it to them. They're dealing with this cumbersome experience without realizing that there is a better way. There should be a better way.
Yeah. And often in spaces where there's a completely new experience, like everything we're describing in DeFi, there's not a similar analogy or comparison to something else. It's not like, oftentimes you can say, oh, our healthcare system isn't working right because we could look at another country and compare it to that. Or banking or something. But here it's like, no, crypto is universal. There's no other country to look at or other planet to look at. So it does feel like it's a thing that people can get over. It's not a showstopper. It's just a major inconvenience. And also like I have, less than $1 of DAO in some wallet that I have. I can't get that out. It's like what you said. It's just I don't have enough in there to transact. So I wonder how many. Like if you were to aggregate all the wallets, all the value in all the wallets of money that people have that they can't transfer out because they don't have enough in there, it has to be at this point millions, maybe tens of millions.
Probably.
Yeah,
it's probably a lot of money. There was actually. Just to show you how much money is in those, the dusts that are left over in the wallets. There was a article a while back I read. It was a security article, Krebs on security. He was talking about this fraudster that essentially would set up an e-commerce website, a real e-commerce website, charge these people, ship them their product and everything, and then after like a year, like a few months went by, they would start charging like $1 a day. So they would build up this entire list, like hundreds of thousands of people, and start charging $1 per day. And most people wouldn't complain about that because they wouldn't even see that. I was like, I might have bought a Coke or something at the store, like whatever. It added up to like tens of millions of dollars per year in revenue that this person was making, going completely under the radar. So imagine how much money with millions of people that are transacting using wallets that is stuck in these wallets that they can't get out.
We sound like the guys from Office Space. You ever see the movie Office Space? Where they're like, bro, if you invent this algorithm that can just take the rounding error after the penny and deposit it into our account, then we'll be rich. And the next day they have like $300,000 in their account. They're like, no, it's not supposed to work that quick. Slow. So
insane.
Yeah. And it's also a real problem in DeFi that do you view it as a design overlook or just part of the, V1, V2 design that this is just how it works? And we need people like you to come out and build a better solution on top of it?
I think it is a design overlook, but I'm not saying that what the Ethereum Foundation did is incredible. What's Polygon, all these chains that have created things I can't imagine managing a development team to create things like that, or how much effort it took to create blockchains like that. But I think it's because it blew up so quickly that it was completely unexpected. I don't think Ethereum founder Vitalik knew actually how quickly his project would grow and how many people will build on top of it, and that's why we're having the gas issues. I think he's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin will, the Ethereum will just grow a little bit here and there. We can modify it, upgrade it, etc. And all of a sudden, overnight, it's like this thing that's processing thousands and thousands of transactions, billions of dollars. And you have no chance to update it, especially with a blockchain, right? He makes a mistake, like doing this V2 upgrade, he makes one mistake and it's billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars. Well, actually, not trillions, probably billions, hundreds of billions of dollars
it will certainly
being lost.
It's certainly trillions of dollars that will be impacted. Because think about Luna, right? As Luna crashed, it's not just the price of Luna that goes down. It's like it might drag down 100 other currencies with it, and then change the relationship that people have with crypto generally. Have you spent time diving deep into Ethereum project development, or is that? Yeah,
that's what we're mainly building on, that and Polygon. That has been Ethereum and smart contracts have been like, I can understand it to the point where I can literally tell my developers, this is what we need to do. I can't code at all, even though I went to school for computer science. I can't code at all, but I do understand the infrastructure enough to essentially tell them this is what needs to be done. Look at this upgrade. Look at what this contract is doing. Like this gases thing was essentially, I brought this entire solution up, and the developer did an incredible job implementing it.
And how do you create this product spec? I mean, are you writing out just in your own words, or are you just talking to him, or writing up a spec sheet on specifically what's done? And then also, how do you research this? Are you on forums or Reddit or white papers or smoking weed, or what's your process?
So, I mean, we just use Notion or Google Doc where I just write out, resources and materials for them to look into. They still have to do their research to understand it fully, but at least I give them the jump start. As far as what brings the ideas, I essentially barely sleep, and at the end of the day, my mind just runs wild right before I fall asleep. And this was one of the ideas. Where, I was like, I wonder if you can do this with using miners to execute these transactions. And sure enough, then I just Google until it's like visited every single link and try to make the connections between different things that people have written. It's really just trying to connect the pieces, because there's people that have done, there is gasless transactions right now, but it's not for every token. So I took that and then looked at this other project that was doing this flash bots that was interacting with miners directly, and figuring out how to connect these two to make it work for every token. Just really connecting the dots and figuring out how the entire infrastructure can work together.
And I just want to take one step backwards. When you were describing how the mechanics work under the hood, say in the case of, you said if someone's making $100 transaction in USDC or Bitcoin to Litecoin, that you're taking a percentage of that and you're running a side transaction. So you're saying, instead of needing ETH to make that transaction, Bitcoin to Litecoin, you would take 2% of Bitcoin, run behind the scenes, you'd run a separate transaction, Bitcoin to ETH, to get the ETH, and then come back into that trade, use the ETH to then facilitate the trade. Does that?
Exactly. Yeah. So these transactions essentially happen in the same block. So one of the things with smart contracts, that's why flash loans, you can essentially borrow like tens of millions of dollars with zero, almost zero collateral, because as long as that flash loan, it knows that it can get repaid back in the same block, it allows you to borrow those funds. So that's the same situation here. As long as the miners know that at the end of the transaction, they're going to get paid back the gas price, whatever the network costs, then they're willing to run that transaction. So with that, you have two transactions. One is where you're converting, for example, Bitcoin to Litecoin, where the user receives whatever the Litecoin that they need to. The second transaction is taking that percentage, converting it to ETH, and sending it to the miners. And those transactions are together. So they execute at the same time. And the miner knows that I'm going to get, and the blockchain itself knows the gas price, the network price is going to be paid. So let's run it.
And the miner's not doing anything or seeing anything unique there, right? It's the same as every other trade. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. It's just algorithmic trading anyways. Interesting. I dig it. And so that, again, the timing on that is a couple months away, roughly.
No. We're actually going to release the code itself, the contractor and everything, probably next week. My developer actually sent me a video demonstrating everything has been tidied up. So we're going to put that on our GitHub this upcoming week. That way other people can build on top of it, can utilize what we created. And then, of course, that's going to be implemented into our wallet and everything else ourselves to make the user experience much simpler. Hopefully people build on top of it and see the potential of it, because it does simplify the onboarding process significantly.
You guys raised some money. What was the raising process like for you?
It was pretty different than what we're used to. We, self-funded the entire project. Part of me is I never wanted, I think this was my personal experience or my personal reason for it. I never really wanted investments early on, because you're in the hands of the investors at that point. Even now, we're not that big, so we're when you have investors, obviously you have your duty to protect their investments and make sure that you're doing everything possible to grow their equity just as much as obviously our equity. So it's like an added stress that I just never really wanted. But in this business, to grow as quickly as everyone else that is raising tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, you need that capital. And it's been put to good use. Like, we've expanded our team, the website. We finally got a website that we're proud of. And the UI UX team, like Clay, they're a fairly expensive company for good reason. The mobile development, everything has really sped up, and that's why you need capital injection. But at the same time, it's a different scenario, like dealing with investors directly, and knowing that the weight of their investment is laying on your shoulders it can be a little stressful to say the least.
Yeah. How did you meet these folks, the investors of yours?
Yeah, so we were actually out looking for investment around, I want to say last summer. So we were talking with VCs and things like that. And someone came up to us, they're from the capital markets field, and said, if you want cash, like, I know people that can raise money really quickly, but they're going to be from the capital side. And it actually lined up well for us, because we didn't have to get a VC involved, which they're known to be very heavy-handed. With the control and preferred shares. You're essentially working for them at that point. Whereas this person was able to organize around with people that wanted to help us go public, and it lined up in a way that, one, we want to go public by the end of this year. I don't know if you saw that article, but we want to be a software, the first crypto software DeFi company on a national exchange like NASDAQ, to drive more eyes on us and drive more liquidity into the company as well. So they were going to help us with that. And the investment is more like, they trust us. You guys are running the company correctly. Just keep going. Here's a cash injection. You guys do what needs to be done to grow this company and take it to the next level. Versus with a VC, we've heard some horror stories as far as how the founders are treated and how the shares are organized and et cetera.
What is, I mean, I've raised VC for multiple startups and I'm much more familiar with how that all works. When you say capital markets, what does that mean? Is that private equity or is that individual family funds or?
Yeah, so usually, so most of them are family offices. Invested. Some of them are private individual investors, like angel investors. But they are all mostly, I shouldn't say all, mostly involved in the capital market, so the stock market and things like that. So they help companies not only get to the stock market itself, but also support them in the aftermarkets. So that's where they're coming in. So not only did they come in with a pretty large cash injection, but they're going to be helping us throughout the process over the next few months, or about next 6 months or so, to get us to NASDAQ. I mean, my attorney says I need to be very careful with the wording, but that's our target is NASDAQ, is being the first one on there, because I feel like that's a huge opportunity, not just for us, but for DeFi in general.
Yeah. And so you're a team of 8, you've raised 5 million, you've got some products out there, launching new ones soon. Is this going to be through a acquisition? Possible scenarios would be launching through a SPAC where there's a private entity, almost like a shell company that is public, and that company acquires yours. And through that method, you are publicly listed through a direct public listing. IPO, generally, I think of as you raise money and then you launch with a stock price. People can trade it, but you usually get banks involved during an IPO, ring the bell and that sort of thing. Which one of those pathways or something else is how you're thinking about it?
I have these, when I'm kind of laying down, I have the dream of, ringing the bell, and, going from being an immigrant with nothing to being on NASDAQ stage, ringing the bell. That's
make mama proud.
Huge deal. Yeah, exactly. There's different options. SPAC, honestly, is probably the last, is on the lower side, because as you've probably seen, or as some of your listeners have seen, SPACs have been just getting destroyed in the aftermarket, at least. So that's one of the last options. If we have to go that route, we will, just to be on the public market and create that liquidity and demand for DeFi products. But we have another few routes that we've been throwing back and forth. Obviously, going the traditional route, public IPO, doing it through like a CF round, and then IPOing, doing a reverse merger. There's just so many different options that have been presented to us, and I'll tell you that the capital market is hungry for crypto stocks. Like they only have mining companies. They have mining companies, and most of them are in the OTC market. And there's only one publicly traded company on a national exchange that's not a mining company, and that's Coinbase.
Yeah.
So, and we're in a completely different field of crypto, more of an emerging technology than Coinbase is. So it has, like, we've been to a conference, a capital market conference called NobleCon, and spoken to a lot of capital market investors, and there's so much more money in the capital markets. It is like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Obviously we know that from seeing like how much volume there is on NASDAQ, but just seeing how much money is being thrown out even to like low cap and small cap companies it dwarfs crypto.
Now, I know when Coinbase IPO'd, I think their price somewhere on $340, they were well north of a 10, 20. I think it was probably, well into the billions valuation. Generally speaking, companies have an advantage in raising through private markets in that the deals are they can be selective about the investors. They can negotiate the terms. There's not the visibility from the public markets, but you have crowdfunding through the Reg CF. Companies can now privately or publicly solicit funding from investors. Is that pathway? Do you almost look at the IPO market as a large crowdfunding campaign? And why do you think other companies haven't gone this route before?
Yeah, so we are actually looking at crowdfunding as well, because when we announced that, our users were like, some of our users, I received a bunch of emails and telegrams like, when can I buy into the company before you go public? And that was never really on our radar, but it became on our radar. So these people expressed interest. That would just be one of the rounds, just to get our users, our dedicated users potentially involved in that low cap area. But as far as why we're choosing to go public, like I said, the marketing behind it is insane. And because there's just such a demand for DeFi, I mean, it's a huge buzzword in the capital market right now.
Totally. Well, I'm wondering,
so much demand.
Why don't you're a small company, and by going public, well, let me ask you this. Why do you think other small companies don't go public? Generally, NASDAQ is going to be selective. I mean, are they not letting in? Is it the banking fees are so high that generally just you can't pay $10 million what keeps out companies generally from direct listing?
I mean, small companies are direct listing constantly, but they usually, depending on their size, they usually try to, and it's also the demand for the stock. So if we were in car sales, and we were a small company getting listed on NASDAQ, it just wouldn't have the same traction. Like getting additional investments, even if your stock is doing decent, it's much harder to sell.
Yeah. And then you also have to carry the regulatory burden, like quarterly earnings and all that stuff. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And from crypto, I mean, what you say about crypto makes a lot of sense. Inherently, the industry that you're in crypto is super exciting. People want to get into it. People who have money in their brokerage accounts or in other equities would love to trade and just buy into a crypto company just for the fact that it's a crypto company, it's listed on NASDAQ. Right. Do you see this as something that other crypto founders have overlooked, or maybe other fundraising mechanisms like through tokens or VCs is just easier? I mean, what's your take on it from talking to people?
I think, so part of it is that most people in DeFi, at least, I want to separate DeFi and like the traditional crypto. At least in DeFi, I don't think it's very engineer focused. And again, this is why the user experience in places is very poor. It's so engineer focused that they don't understand the capital markets. I don't either. I'll tell you the truth. I don't understand half the stuff that our attorney and some of these advisors are telling us. But by having these advisors, they've opened up a different field of view of how the capital markets work and how all of this is happening. Whereas I'm pretty sure all the other founders in DeFi are in the same situation as me, and no one's really brought it up to them. So it's not really even on their radar. It wasn't on our radar either. Now, as far as the traditional crypto side, like with centralized exchanges, more Bitcoin-centric companies, they are going public. Like I think Kraken is also try to do like some kind of raise. I can't remember what they called it, but they did like a raise, and I'm pretty sure they're probably going to eventually go public. There's another exchange that was trying to do like, I think, a $2.8 billion IPO. I've started to see a little more traction from exchanges looking to go public. I think it's getting there, and eventually I think DeFi is also going to follow that. There's more the centralized exchanges go public, the ones that can. Obviously, some of them are located in some rainy island in the middle of the ocean. But as the USA companies go public, it's gonna start flowing the DeFi crowd as well towards it. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's getting started, and that's why we want to be the first one.
Yeah, dude, I respect your ambition to move in that direction. given how few people have done that. And the few have done it tend to be, much larger companies. So excited to see how it works out for you. Excited to learn from it. I mean, hopefully we'll have it back on and we'll talk about it.
It'll be exciting. And like I said, being the first one, ringing that bell is, being the first DeFi company, being the first probably Georgian to ring the bell on NASDAQ is a pretty, you can't put money on that.
Yeah, dude, that's what America's about. The immigrant success story. Yeah. Are you writing publicly? Are you tweeting? Do you have are you personally active on any of that?
No, actually, I don't use Twitter. My Facebook actually kicked me off their platform a while back.
Why?
So I don't use Facebook.
What are your advertising e-commerce stuff? Yeah, I know that game.
Yeah. They have a weird, like they just have an automated system that if it thinks that you're doing something wrong, there's absolutely no way to fight it back. So not on Facebook, not on Twitter. I just honestly have no time for it. I think my partner is, if anyone wants to add him, I think it's like Taras _ DeFi or something along those lines. But yeah, no, social media is not my thing anymore.
Cool. Well, we got you on this podcast, so that's coming somewhere. Yeah. Well, I love the project. I love what you guys have built. Definitely will include all the links for Aurox and the Raging Bull icon, which I love. Anything else you want to throw out there? Otherwise, it's been awesome to chat with you.
No, nothing else. Yeah, you guys check out the website. Our platform's free. And the wallet, we're actually have a very big surprise to the people that are going to be using the wallet here in the next few weeks. It's going to be another unique aspect that hasn't been applied to DeFi, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it.
Oh, can we get a clue? Is it a feature of convenience?
It's not convenience as more as it is rewarding people for utilizing the wallet. And it's going to be pretty. It's essentially going to be bringing DeFi to the 21st century. Even though like crypto is ahead of its time, it's going to bring in the more of the business aspects of what we see other companies doing in Web 2.0 to Web 3.
Rewards, baby. Getting those airline miles.
No.
Sweet. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. But G, this has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for sharing your time, sharing your story. I hope you guys keep crushing it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
All right, buddy.